You create a chemistry of blissfulness. So my chemistry is blissful, doesn't matter what's happening. The drama around me is happening in so many different ways, but this is a privilege that I've kept for myself. Me being joyful or miserable, me being peaceful or disturbed, these privileges I have not given it to anybody else, I kept them to myself. I think every human being should do that. That the privileges of the nature of your experience must be in your hand.
We go about it in very different ways, and reading your book, I was really impacted, and so getting to dive deeper into this, I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. And I think the first place to start, walk me through what you mean by potential. Like what do you think is human potential?
So every creature, from a worm, insect, bird, plant, tree, everybody, all of them are trying to be full-fledged lives. If one sees what's happening beneath the earth in terms of the root systems, it is an enormous effort for a plant or a tree to become a full-fledged tree. Well, an apple tree is not trying to be an oak tree, but an apple tree wants to be a full-fledged apple tree. That effort is on in every life. So is it in human beings. But the problem with humanity is just this, that for every other creature, nature has drawn two lines. Within these two lines, they live and die. So their idea of full-fledged is hitting the ceiling of their life. But if a human being hits a ceiling, he gets frustrated and miserable because nature, this process of evolution has delivered to us to a place where there is only the bottom line, there is no top line, though some human beings are trying to breach the bottom line and go below that effort also is going on So essentially, what human life is when life was in the other forms of life that you see on the planet, nature determined a certain compulsive, instinctive ways of functioning. Once you become human, these lines have been removed. You can act consciously. That means what you call as human potential is not of any kind of measurable limit. It can go as far as you desire or as far as you have the courage to walk. So when we say human potential, unleashing human potential, it is not about reaching the peak, it is a trajectory. Because what our life is a combination of a certain amount of time and energy. Time is rolling away for all of us at the same pace. If you sit, it rolls away, if you sleep, it rolls away, if you do something, it goes away, if you don't do anything, it goes away. You're happy or miserable, it goes away. Time is running out for all of us. So it's only the energy that you can do different things with. If you bring your energies to a certain level of intensity and possibility, what somebody does in 10 years, you may do it in 1 year. This means if you live here for 100 years, it feels like in people's impact that you've created, it feels like you lived here for 1,000 years, simply because you have managed your life energies in a certain way. So for me, a human being impactful means, how conscious have you become? This is very important. Because if you're in compulsive cycles, then your energy gets wasted in so many things. If you observe people in a day, let's take 24 hours, in that anyway most people by prescription in America they sleep for 8 hours So 8 hours means 1/3 of life is gone. In the remaining 2/3 they have to eat, they have to, shower, bathroom, this, that, all this, another 2-3 hours gone. So literally 50% of life is gone, daily basis, just for basic maintenance of this life. 50% of the time is gone in maintenance, remaining 50%, what they have. If you look at every single move that they may make with their body, their thought process, their emotions, you will see a whole lot of it is happening in compulsive cycles. Or in other words, If you are little sensitive to life, you will realize you are the biggest issue in your life. So this is one thing that I'm trying to do with people, that you are never the issue in your life. I'm not the issue. My thought, my emotion, my body is never the issue. My thought, my emotion, my energy and my body are my instruments of function. They are not impediments in my life. But I would say for 90% of the human beings, their own body, then the compulsions of the body, the compulsions of their thought, the compulsions of their emotions are ruling them most of the time. So when you yourself are a problem, well, you're on self-help.
So how do you begin to break out of that? Like if we're all stuck in these compulsive patterns, how do you gain the consciousness that you're talking about and begin to, I don't know if the words go beyond, elevate, like how do you stop being in that endless cycle?
Everybody wants a solution, but nobody wants to delve into the problem and see what is the nature of the problem that we have. The nature of the problem is like this. Why are we compulsive? What is it that's compulsive about us? Compulsion means we are going to the same place again and again. That means we are going in circles. The nature of physical existence in the universe is such, whether you take an atom, an individual atom, or the cosmic space, everything that's physical is always in cyclical movement. The atoms are doing their circles, the solar system is doing its stuff, the galaxies are doing their stuff, our own bodies are going through cycles. In fact, we are born because of the cycles in our mother's bodies, that's why we are born. So, entire physical nature is born out of cyclical movement, that means compulsiveness. So do not misunderstand compulsiveness as something bad, it's the basis of your existence. It is a good platform, but you're supposed to stand on the platform and act. Right now you have become the platform, so somebody else will dance on you.
Interesting. That's so my thing. Part of what drives me is getting efficient at achieving your goal, which I'm sure is less than thrilling for you. So for me, I am interested in actually executing on my potential. So transferring my ability to do something into the actual thing. So the easy example I give people is if
What does impact mean for you? Leaving a footprint?
Not quite. So I have a very specific kind of impact that I'm trying to have, which is to help people actuate their potential. So I think that a lot of people, they are capable of extraordinary things. And I think that to your point about joy, I think one of the things that's absolutely foundational to joy is growth. And so getting people on a path where they believe they can grow.
Why do you say it that way? Why is growth foundational to joy? Joy is foundational to growth, isn't it?
Probably, yes. But I don't have an insight as to what came first, which is exactly why you're here.
No, there is substantial medical and scientific evidence to show that only when you're in a pleasant state of experience, your body and your brain works at its best. There's no argument about that. There's enough evidence to show that. So whatever impact or success or reaching goals or growth or whatever you say, on one level in the physical world, it's about how well you harness your physiological and your psychological process, isn't it? Whether your body and mind works against you or works for you, this is a big difference. So there is enough evidence to show only when you're in pleasant levels of experience, this happens best. So obviously, joy is first, then growth. If you're joyful constantly and you have no fear of suffering because you understand all human experience comes from within you, and so you have managed to create the kind of experience that you want, now growth is possible unbridled. If you have the fear of falling down and suffering, you will not go very high, isn't it?
So how do you work through that? How do you help people on that path?
Many ways to look at it. One of the simplest ways to see it is all human experience has a chemical basis to it. Right now, let us say you're joyful. If we look at your chemistry, it'll be in a certain way. Let's say you're miserable. If you check your chemistry, it'll be in a completely different way. Now we have a technology that with which you create a chemistry of blissfulness. So my chemistry is blissful, doesn't matter what's happening. The drama around me is happening in so many different ways, but this is a privilege that I've kept for myself. Me being joyful or miserable, me being peaceful or disturbed, these privileges I have not given it to anybody else, I kept them to myself. I think every human being should do that. That the privileges of the nature of your experience must be in your hand. Because when you try to act in the world, there are many forces. All of them will not always cooperate. Sometimes they cooperate, many times they will not cooperate, many times they'll turn against you. This is the nature of the world, that's how it should be. World will never happen 100% your way, and I'm glad it is so, because if it all happened your way, where do I go? I'm glad it's not happening your way. Little bit my way, little bit your way, little bit somebody else's way. That's how the world should be.
That's very interesting. Is there a way to avoid falling into those traps? Like, I know that you've taken some very different approaches, at least from an American set of eyes, to raising your daughter and not wanting to put a lot of teachings on her. Is that to avoid dogma? Is it to avoid closing doors because you think you know something? Like, how do we, if we were gonna have kids and raise them in a way that stopped them from falling into some of these traps, what would we do?
How many parents would dare and encourage their children not to be identified with parents, not to be identified with the religion that they follow, not to be identified with their racial and national and other prejudices that they hold? They all think these things are sacred, isn't it?
Yes.
These are the things which destroy human potential. Whether you want to turn a human being… See, I see this term and it really hurts me when people say, it's very common, only in America I hear this, I was raised as whatever, Catholic or Baptist or Christian or Muslim or whatever else. I was raised. See, you must raise only cattle and sheep. You don't raise human beings. You have to cultivate a human being. You have to give space and give support of love and support so that a human being grows, because every human being is capable of a unique possibility. Raising means what? A flock is what you raise. You don't raise an individual, isn't it?
That's very interesting.
So, for this, we need to come to a certain level of maturity within ourselves. The most fundamental thing is, our children need not look like us, need not think like us, need not act like us, need not be us in any way. A child is not a legacy. It's a life. And it is an individual life. It has to be what it has to be. Well, if I do not influence, right now the fear is if I do not influence, somebody on the street will influence the child. On the social media, they'll influence the child. So to cultivate a child so that they know that the intrinsic intelligence and being human is more important than being influenced by this or that, it doesn't matter what it is. Whether it's parentage, or it's a priest, or it's a guru, or it's a pandit, it doesn't matter who. Influence is not important. What is important is the intrinsic intelligence finding its full potential.